Hi everybody, how's it going? I figured I would probably make a video today. I was on the train home from work and felt particularly inspired to make a video, so here we are. As you can tell, I'm a little bit better dressed in this video, just coming straight home from work, sitting down and pressing record. So the topic I wanted to cover today was I guess what would classically be called as budgeting, what I call as a spending plan, but ultimately it's just kind of how to manage one's own personal finance. This is how I learned to manage my own personal finance once I got out of college and had my first income stream. I still use it to this day. It's something that I have simply just scaled into my life as money started increasing with inflows. But its core principles, I think, are very instrumental to understanding one's own personal finance. I take a bit of a different approach, which we'll kind of discuss. But yeah, that's kind of the introduction. I do have a slideshow presentation that I had already from the class that I made around personal finance. So I'll be teaching off of that for part of it and then kind of explaining a little bit for a second part. So let's change the screen here. All right. So as I covered, I call these spending plans, but people call it budgeting, whatever you want to call it. I think it all works. So first off, let's go over cash flows and how they're going to present themselves, either in a young adult if you're like a new college grad, or just an adult if you're an adult of any age that is figuring out to get this started. Because remember, the best time to have started was a year ago, but the second best time to start is now. So we're going to be going over the 4 types of spending that would happen in your day-to-day life and why it's important. And then I'll probably skip helpful tips on how to handle increased cash flows, because I'll cover that solo, kind of on like a separate slide. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, it's important to understand cash flows, right? Now, what is a cash flow? At its very basic level, cash flows are when money enters or exits your life, right? As I'm sure you can tell, inflows are when cash comes in, and outflows are when cash flows out, right? Inflow and outflow. So some examples of inflows could be allowances, could be money that you earn from work. It could be birthday gift money, any of that, right? All that's just cash inflows. Examples of cash outflows. So buying food and drinks, buying gifts for people, paying bills, paying for tuition. All of those are cash outflows. Now, a majority of adult life is really just spent managing cash flows, right? You want to make sure that more money is coming in than going out, right? And I'm talking at a very base level. For more advanced people who are watching this video, you might, think about different money influencers, and they have varying opinions, but this is kind of more a basic level of that. I would compare them to like professional chess players who have different philosophies around playing. Some play more aggressive, some play more passive. But I'm just teaching you how to move the rooks and move the knights and stuff like that. You can go elsewhere for more in-depth content, but I think it's important to get the basics. So one of the biggest sources of inflows for adults is what's known as a salary. Now, this is the money that they're paid for going to work. And it's important to note that one day this inflow will stop, and this is known as retirement or disability or whatever the case may be. But at some point, this salary will stop in the future. Now, the goal for most anyone's financial life is to make sure that they either A, have enough money saved up over all of those years of having excess inflows versus outflows, right? So they make more money than they spend. And the difference between those over time, if you save up enough, you live off that when you retire, or to establish things that can make money while they don't actually have to work a job to create that inflow, right? A lot of people quote passive income. I'm not going to cover that today, maybe in a future video, but today I just want to talk about how to manage cash flows. Okay, so if any questions about that, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Happy to answer all your questions. You'll notice I more tailored to a classroom. But if you're feeling okay, how's my teaching style? Go for it. Okay, so here's another example, and again, you can put this answer in the comments if you'd like. But the last time you got some gift money or cash inflows, and this is something different than your job, right? When's the last time you got like a surplus of cash inflow that was unexpected or whatever the case may be? What did you end up buying with it? How did you spend it? Go ahead and write down your answer, or just remember it for yourself, and we'll cover that in a bit. So now I want to go over what the 4 types of cash flows are, and this is very important. Take time to learn this because all the spending that you're going to be doing in life falls into one of these 4 categories. So, and this is going to be important to how I structure my own personal finance to scale regardless of how much money I make. So, we have fixed non-discretionary, variable non-discretionary, fixed discretionary, and variable discretionary. Now, you might be thinking like, oh, what are all these terms, right? Don't worry, I'll break them down for you. We can break them down into the 2 changing roots of the word, right? Is the spending going to be the same amount all the time, or is it going to vary from expense to expense, right? If it stays the same, it's fixed, like tuition or rent, right? These payments are going to be fixed. You're not going to be blindsided by how much it is, right? Variable just means that the amount each time is going to vary, right? So if you pay bills, your electricity bill tends to vary. Your gas bill tends to vary. If you have like a fixed, or if you have like a Comcast bill, that's the same amount every time. That wouldn't be variable, right? That would be fixed. So super simple. Does it change? Does it not? Fixed versus variable, right? Or variable versus fixed. And the second category is discretionary versus non-discretionary. If the spending itself is non-discretionary, it means you do not have discretion on whether or not you pay that bill, right? Or you pay that item, or you don't have a choice. So for example, rent. If you don't pay rent, there are dire consequences to you not paying rent, right? You might get evicted. If you don't pay tuition, you could get kicked out of school, right? Like there's consequences to these. They are essential that you pay. Another category is like food, right? Now this kind of gets muddy because some people are like, oh, well, then is going out to eat considered an essential, or is going out to eat non-discretionary? I would say it's based on your available resources, right? Like if you have a stove, if you have the ability and you have the time to cook, and you can do so in a cheap manner, I would say getting groceries is more of the non-discretionary thing, whereas discretionary is going out to eat. But if you don't have a stove, like if you're in a college dorm or something like that, and going out to eat's your only way, then yeah, sure, you could chalk that up to non-discretionary, but just use your best judgment. And then discretionary is things that aren't essential. You know, as much as you think you need that iced coffee in the morning, it's probably not going to kill you if you don't get it, right? So that would be an example of a discretionary spending. Now, let's go into each of the 4 categories and kind of talk about them. So first up, we have the fixed non-discretionary category. Now, recall, fixed, we know the costs won't change that much, if at all. And non-discretionary, meaning they are essential to day-to-day life, right? So examples of fixed non-discretionary, we kind of cover these. Rent, tuition. And we're going to go ahead and put a hidden example number 3 here, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. And then this is kind of what, this hidden example is really the core at which I was able to build my own personal finance. But we'll cover that in a second. The second one is variable non-discretionary. Now, you notice fixed changed to variable, but both are still non-discretionary. So variable, meaning we know the cost will change from time to time, but it is essential to day-to-day life in the non-discretionary portion of it. So examples of this could be groceries, it could be your energy bill, or potentially even pet food, right? If you don't buy your pet's food, they ain't gonna last, right? So these are some examples of essential day-to-day costs that are going to change from time to time, right? Or every time. Now we're going to get into the discretionary category. So we're going to go back over to fixed, meaning we know the costs don't change, if at all. But now we're talking about discretionary things, right? These are things that you don't necessarily have to survive, but they are nice for quality of life. So your fixed discretionary categories, these are really going to be a lot of your memberships. So like Spotify, Netflix, Crunchyroll, gym memberships, things like that. Like things that will be the same cost, but you don't need to incur them. A lot of people, when they think about budgeting, they really think about trying to rein in the discretionary categories. But I would say I don't consider fixed discretionary as much of something that I try to maintain. I mean, like if I'm not using a membership, I'll try and trim it out. But I mean, I'm very purposeful with my fixed discretionary spending. The things that I'm spending money on are things that I actually enjoy and I think produce good quality of life bumps for me. And the final category, which is what everybody tries to think about when they think about budgeting, they think I need to control my variable discretionary spending, right? And what is variable discretionary? Variable, we know the cost will change by some amount each time, and discretionary, they're not essential to day-to-day life. This is everything. This is like Starbucks. This is going out to eat. For me, it's like random shopping on Amazon for like, what's the deal of the day, right? Like I don't need a vacuum cleaner that doubles as a cell phone, but do I get it? Maybe, who knows, right? So this is, I think, probably the biggest category, like I said, that people try to rein in when they think about budgeting, but I think of it kind of in reverse, and we'll kind of talk about that. But any questions? No? Yes? Leave them in the comments section. Now, again, let's if you need a break, pause. Let's revisit what you put for whatever you spent your last amount of gift money for. And just try and take some time and categorize it. Figure out what kind of category it falls under, right? If you want, you can put it in the comment section. I'll give you a little thumbs up if you're right. Let's see here. Okay, perfect. So if you'll recall, at some point, your cash inflow will cease to exist, right? When that cash flow ceases to exist, you will no longer have inflows, but outflows always continue, right? You will always have outflows till the day you die, even after you die, right? Because your funeral costs money, right? So your outflows do not stop till you stop, but the inflows will stop when you stop working, right? So this is going to be a very important concept. Now, would you say it's pretty essential to your day-to-day life when you're older that you have inflows to offset these outflows? Probably yes. This kind of goes into this topic, and a lot of people think about this as a very boring way to like save for your future, but really in reality, it's paying your future self, right? Because at some point, 65, 70-year-old Sean is not going to work or not going to want to work, right? And it's going to be pretty important that I pay him, right? Imagine, right? Just think for a minute. If you were an employee of a company, right, and you work for a month, just poured your heart and soul into everything. And at the end of the month, the company said, okay, well, we paid for the electricity, we paid for the rent, we paid for all these things. So unfortunately, we don't have your paycheck. We hope that's okay. And get back to it. You'd be pissed, right? Like you'd be upset. I would be, So now imagine you work, 40 plus years of your life, and you get to the end of the road and older you looks back at younger you and says, hey, where's my paycheck? And then younger you's like, ooh, sorry, I blew it all on variable non-discretionary costs. Hope that's okay. Old you is going to get screwed over, and it's not going to be nice, right? So in that way, I categorize paying my future self as a fixed non-discretionary expense, in the same way that a company does not have the option to not pay its employees, obviously, unless it's like going bankrupt or something. But it's non-negotiable, right? Like you should not negotiate paying your future self. That's a must. So when I think about my cash outflows, I think about paying my future self as an outflow for myself today. Now you may ask, okay, how much should you pay yourself, right? Well, I would say it's up to you. If you can afford to pay yourself, I always like to think about future pay, like future self-pay, minimum wage is 12%, right? So let's say you get $100. If you pay your future self 12%, that would mean you set aside $12 as a fixed non-discretionary expenditure, and the other 88 goes to everything else, right? That simple. Personally, what I did was I started paying my future self. I think I started at 12%. And then within 1 year, I gave my future self a pay raise up to 20%. And then after 20%, I think it took about 3 years. And then I started paying my future self. I try to average about 30% now. So I save about 1/3 of my net income. So after my taxes are taken out, right? So I try and save 30%. It's not easy, but I really like my future self. Future self's a great employee. Love the guy. He's fantastic. I want him to be well paid. Now, this is kind of like a structure that I think about my finances in. And I think it's something that is more sustainable, because a lot of people, when they think like, oh, I need a budget, they're like, oh, I need to save every receipt. I need to put down every expense in an Excel sheet, and I need to just crunch all the numbers. And it's like, it's so exhausting. Like, no one has time to do all of that. It's honestly just a waste of time, right? So if you categorize paying your future self as a fixed non-discretionary expense, you unlock the ability to be able to do this structure while also saving for retirement, right? And you could even tack that further as any financial goal that you have. So let's say you want to save up for a trip to Hawaii or something like that, and it's going to be $5,000, right? But you have a year to get there. Like, your trip's in a year, right? What you would do is take 6,000 divided by 12 months. You would get $500. That $500 is what you need to set aside each month to make the trip happen in 12 months, right? Assuming that you're not weighting it for inflation, but let's just flat $6,000, right? So all you need to do is for 12 months in a row, pay the future goal as a fixed non-discretionary $500 a month, right? So let me explain the structure a little bit. That's kind of like a little tangent, but so at the top, you receive an inflow, right? So this is your paycheck. When you start to funnel it in, the first thing your paycheck should touch is the fixed non-discretionary things, right? So rents, tuitions, and paying your future self, right? Those costs should come out of the paycheck immediately. They're up there as far as like taxes, right? Like when you receive a paycheck, like taxes are immediately taken out. The government immediately takes out their portion of it and gives you money, right? So there's no chance that you like spend through the tax portion, right? Because the US government's not gonna be happy if you spend through their money, right? So if they do that, you should do that for yourself, right? So anyways, fixed non-discretionary items get paid out first. Then what you have left with that paycheck now goes to the variable non-discretionaries. So like the gas, the energy, the water, the whatever bills, right? And I'll go over how I estimate those since they do vary. I'll cover how I do that, right? So once you cover all your variable non-discretionary costs, you've taken care of everything that is essential for day-to-day life, right? So now the first two categories are covered. You're good, right? Now we go to the fixed discretionary, right? Now, again, these are the Spotifys, the gym memberships, Hulu accounts, Crunchyroll, whatever, right? These are the fun things that make life good. But you want to have like some sort of consistency around that, right? So next, you pay the fixed discretionary. Now, after this point, assuming that you've done a good job of goal setting for yourself, the rest is have fun money, right? Me personally, I don't budget myself. Like I don't count, like I don't think like, oh, Chipotle. I went out to Chipotle, I got a chicken burrito that's going to be, with tax $13.83. I don't do that, right? Because I know whatever money is left over in my bank account after I cover for the first three categories, right? The fixed non-discretionary, the variable non-discretionary, and the fixed discretionary. I know once I cover those, the rest of the money is play money. So I don't think about it. I just look at the number and I say, okay, cool. I have that much money to spend this month. That is my fun money. And I don't track it. Like I've done the hard lifting work up at front. So now I could just hang out, do whatever, right? Enjoy the money. So that's how I initially started my my spending plan or my budgeting. And it's scaled. Like honestly, it really moves in. And the key is anytime you have a goal, you just divide out that goal by how long you have until that deadline is for the goal. And you just put it in your fixed non-discretionary. And then because you pay those first, your free flow spending, the variable discretionary, automatically will drop as a result of that, right? you're not saving for your goals or paying your future self after you've spent the variable discretionary, because like if you see $1,000 in this account, like you're going to be more likely to spend it, right? So you want to take that out first and then know, okay, whatever's in this account I can spend, right? Okay. I guess I can cover this. Sure, why not? So a lot of people are like, oh, well, can't I just start paying my future self later? Like, why do I have 40 years. Why would I start now? And honestly, the best way I could think about this is like when I was younger and I had to read books, I was very slow at reading, right? So let's say like if you're in college, you have a regular school quarter. Let's say you're on the quarter system and it's 10 weeks. If you have to read a 700-page book in 10 weeks, if you just start like day one and you read every day for the entire, 10 weeks, that's 10 pages a day, right? Super doable, right? You can do that. 10 pages a day is no problem, right? But if you start reading with only 1 week left, you only have 7 days, that's 100 pages a day, which is much harder to do, right? The amount of effort that it takes to be consistent over a longer period of time is much less than the amount of effort it takes to be inconsistent up until the deadline and just try and get it all done, right? I think it's, I forget what book says this quote, like says it this way, but imagine if farmers tried to cram and procrastinate, right? Like if they didn't like put any seeds into the ground and like when it comes time for harvest, they're like, oh, I didn't put any seeds in the ground. They just like jam seeds in there and then like nothing grows, right? Like that's a very easy to conceptualize representation of like how hard it is, near impossible to just procrastinate on something like this and have anything successful happen. So that is the presentation portion. Now, I figured it might be good for me to kind of discuss implementing this. Like, okay, so you've thrown 4 spending categories at me. How do I use this, right? And I figured probably the best way to do this is literally just take a copy of what I do on a month-to-month basis. And again, like I edited this once, I made this once, and I don't touch this. Like I maybe check in on it like once a year, unless a major expense happens or something happens that my finances are drastically shifted, then I'll revisit this. But let's go back to, you make sure there's no sensitive information on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we're good. Okay. So here's what I do. I literally put down the line item. These are my columns, right? So cash outflow description is literally just whatever it is, like whatever the expenditure is. So you'll see like I invest or my saving for retirement are basically these 2 categories. We can cover what these accounts are later, maybe in another video. I have a subscription to Minecraft Realms, Crunchyroll, RuneScape. I go to a climbing gym nearby. I have internet bills, I have water, I have electricity, I have rent, I have Spotify, and I have a car payment, right? So I just list those out, right? And you can just kind of like think down the categories for yourself, right? Like think down what are all of my fixed non-discretionary costs, and then just put them down. And then what are all my variable non-discretionary costs, and then put them down, right? So you could, so anyways, yeah, that's the description. I have multiple accounts that they come out of, so I just put them here. Like, do they come out of my Schwab account? Do they come out of my Chase account? Or do they come out of my Bank of America, right? The frequency I put is important. I do monthly. If you want, you can include annual costs as well. So you'll see I have like a AAA membership. That's that much. I got Malwarebytes. I got Headspace, Nintendo Online, Google. I have the 100 gig plan. Those are my costs, right? If you want, what you can do is you could divide these out by 12 months, and then that's how much you have to save per month. But I usually have enough excess in my account from how I estimate my variable costs to where it covers these. So we'll go over that in a second here. So we'll take out our annual costs. I put the month, the frequency. I put what day it comes out. This is just for my personal knowledge. Doesn't really help the sheet. the amounts I'll fill in right now. The type of spending is important. And again, we're only plotting the first three, right? We're only plotting variable non-discretionary, fixed non-discretionary, and fixed discretionary, right? Variable non-discretionary, we don't care about. It's honestly just hard to keep track of on a day-to-day life. So let's say inflow per check, right? Let's say you make, I don't know, say you make $2,000 per check, right? You get $4,000 monthly. The way I have it set up is it will calculate all of the cash outflows that are labeled monthly and subtract it from here. So this will basically tell me how much I have left of my paycheck, right? So let's go through here. Let's say you want to save, let's see here, monthly 4,000 times 12. What is that? 48. So you make 48,000 a year net. So 48 here. Man, my math is terrible today. Been a long day. So let's see. We got equals 48 times. Let's say you want to give yourself 12%. 5,760, right? 5,760. Divide that by 12. Oh, I put equals. 5,760 divided by 12, and then we'll go ahead and put the equal sign this time. All right, I don't know what's going on here. What is this? Oh, is it categorizing as a date? I'm not going to edit this out. 5,760 divided by 12. There we go, 480 a month, right? So if you get paid twice per month, you get 2 paychecks per month, you would just divide this by 2, $240. So you would just pop. Well, I guess I would probably put it here. $240, right? Bam. Immediately taken out of here. So now I have $3,760. Let's say rent's another one. Let's say rent takes, I don't know, $1,200 a month. Bam, taken out. You have $2,560. What else? Bills. So what I do for variable bills is I will take a rolling 12-month period. So my last 12 bills of that expense, average it. So like, whatever averages out to. So if you have like a 60, a 65 and a 70, your average is 65, right? And then I round it up a little bit, right? So if, let's say on average, well, this one's pretty set. Let's say $70. I think that's how much I pay. Let's say your water bills are typically between like $60 and $100. Let's tighten it up. Let's do $70 and $100. I would probably do like $85 here. More often than not, that will be an overestimate, but those overestimates will help cover my annual costs, if that makes sense. So I'll do the same thing for PG&E. Let's say my average is like 50. I may go 60 here and plot that down, right? Minecraft Realms, I think it's $9. I think Crunchyroll, it's like $10 or something like that. RuneScape, I think it's like $9.99 or something. Peak of Fremont, I think that's 60 for me. Spotify, I think it's $9 a month. My car payment, I think it's $300 a month. Just round numbers. Cool. So there you go. Like you've now plotted your first 3 categories of spending, and you're left with this much per month, right? So all you need to do is add this all up. So the total cost, if you look down here at sum, the total cost of all of these is $2,052.99. $2,052.99. 2,052.99 divided by 2. So every paycheck, set aside $1,026.49, right? Round it up, say 1,027, right? And you just put this away. So like how my finances work is I receive my paycheck to my Bank of America account. From my Bank of America account, I will invest in my retirement savings accounts or my investment accounts. We can go over a future video how to open accounts like that, but for now, just kind of take it for what it is. And then from there, I pay all of my bills out of an account at Schwab, and I just call it my bill pay account. So that bill pay account gets this amount minus whatever I save, right? Because I move that directly. But every single paycheck I get, I same day move that amount over to my bill pay account. And then from there, I don't have to worry about it. Anything else I see in that account, anything else I see in my Bank of America account is free game. I can spend it. I can do whatever I want. I don't think I'll have enough time in this video because I do have to get going to something. But what I'll cover in another video is this, like, if you have debt, how do you, I'll cover it in this video, screw it. So yeah, that's the concept. If you have any questions about it so far, just put a question in the comment section. I'm happy to help with it. Let's say, okay, so if you're living paycheck to paycheck, meaning you don't, let me see how to put this. Maybe not paycheck to paycheck is the right word. So for me, when I pay all of my bills in advance 1 month. So like if my so it's January, I will have February's rent ready to go by January 30th or 31st or whatever, right? What is it? 31st. Okay. Okay, good. Just need to make sure my address wasn't on there. So I will have all of my, I'll have all of the money I need for the next month's worth of bills ready by month end, right? So January 31st, I have February's bills, so on and so forth. If you're not at that point, what I would do is I would set a goal for myself to be like, if your total monthly bills are 2052, covers 1 month's worth of those first 3 categories, I would just divide this out by 6 months or divide it out by 6 so that within 6 months time, you will be able to now have a financial situation where you're paying for the next month's worth of bills. You have that money ready on the last day of the prior month. So if you just save $342 every month for 6 months, you will have an account that has this money ready for the next month, right? So you don't have to worry. Like if let's say you were to lose a job, right? You have the next month's bills covered. That can cover you from, the time it takes for you to find a new job, right? And there's another concept that like you have a certain amount of months saved on the side as cash. I'm going to do a video in the future on like best practices for like managing personal finance. But for what this video is worth, just managing cash flows, I'll leave it at this. But yeah, so this is how I got to where I was, right? Like I was like, I wanted to get this way in 4 months. So I calculated how much I needed to get there over 4 months and then just did that. So now I have all my finances ready for the month ahead of me. So anyways, hope that makes sense. If not, leave a question in the comment section. If I get enough questions about something, I'm happy to do another like short video in response to it. Or if somebody asks a particularly good question, happy to help. But otherwise, just pop them down. Like I said, I like responding to comments. I'll definitely read it and respond and kind of help you out as best I can. None of this constitutes financial advice. It's, standard disclaimers. This is pretty generic stuff. So like, just go about it as you will. But yeah. All right. Well, if I see you on another video, I'm excited for it. But if this is the last video I see you in, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. Have a wonderful day.